Warren Buffett retired in 2025 with an estimated net worth of approximately $148 billion. His investment record is 19.9% annualized from 1965 all the way to 2025. That is a total return of 5.5 million percent, which is just absolutely insane. And he has lived in the same house in Omaha, Nebraska that he bought in 1958 for $3,100. Now, most people think that is very frugal, but it's not about frugality. It's about a system, and a very specific, very old system that has been building wealth for generations while everyone else is chasing those exciting returns. I've been studying this system and looking at it for years, applying it to my real portfolio, which has crossed about the $500,000 mark. And in today's video, I want to share you the 12 habits, because every single one of them is corrected and connected to what we're doing in our portfolio. So let's go ahead and get into it. Habit number one, buying assets that produce income, not assets that signal status. Old money doesn't look to buy things just to look wealthy. It buys things that actually generate wealth. When we look at a productive asset, it can be an index fund, a rental property, a business. These things are actually going to compound. When we look at a consumptive asset, such as a luxury car, a watch, possibly a kitchen upgrade, depreciates and signals to individuals. The confusion of these two categories is the primary mechanism by which money can disappear. Every dollar we're putting into the SPMO, the VOO, the QQQM is a productive asset. Every dollar that didn't go into that car upgrade is compounding inside of those positions year after year. Now, habit number two, treat tax planning as architecture, not just paperwork once a year. New money earns and figures out taxes. You have to do this, and the earlier that you do it, the better and more productive you're going to be. Wealth. Old money structures the taxes as part of the planning from the very beginning. When we look at Northwestern Mutual 2025 survey, found that 76% of wealthy individuals describe themselves as very disciplined financial planners versus around 39% of the general public. That is a very big difference. The gap is not the intelligence. The gap is the planning that we're not seeing. Running this channel inside of a taxable brokerage account with M1 Finance is a very deliberate check structure that I'm doing in here. I track every position and cost basis because eventually the tax treatment is going to be part of the long-term calculation. Habit number three, building financial privacy as a deliberate strategy. Old money doesn't sit around and talk about net worth, not false modesty. It is structural protection. When your financial position is private, you are insulated from informal borrowing requests, social pressure to perform wealth, and products that are marketed to the successful individuals. The Millionaire Next Door research has found the most common vehicle by the American millionaire was a pickup truck. The most common neighborhood they were established in was an unremarkable one. Privacy was not a side effect of their wealth. It was a strategy and actually allowed them to compound wealth in the entirety. Now, habit number four, use debt only to acquire appreciating assets. This is one that I use in my portfolio. Old money borrows, but they only borrow in one single direction, towards assets that are going to increase value or increase income in excess or higher than the cost of the debt. New money borrows only to consume. When you look at car loans, holidays on credit, home extensions, home equities, they are costing you more than the value they are actually adding to your net worth. That is not debt. That is slowly financial bleeding with the monthly payment that you're trying to afford. The only question worth asking is not, can I afford the payment? The real question is, does the asset this debt finances generate more debt than the actual cost? If the answer is no, old money does not borrow. Habit number five, maintaining relationships with advisors, not just platforms. Old money doesn't manage all of their wealth through apps. It manages it through people that they've known for years that can give them a full financial picture and proactively let them know when something needs to change. This could be a fee-only financial advisor, a tax professional, an estate planner can cost less annually than most people pay for subscriptions. The difference is not only the cost, it is more of the priority. I use M1 Finance as my execution platform, but the strategic thinking behind every single allocation that I put on this channel is the equivalent, and I do have a financial advisor that I do have a great relationship, and it is built in public. Now, habit number six, and this is the one where a lot of people do not follow along, hold for decades, not just for quarters. This habit sounds super obvious, but in practicality, almost no one ever follows it. Buffett bought Coca-Cola shares in 1988. As of today, he still owns those same shares. The position now approximately worth $25 billion. not any particular insight from quarterly earnings or what the company is going through year to year, but from one decision that he's made and maintained through every recession, every market panic that we've seen, where selling it off would have been absolutely rational. Now, research on investing behavior shows the same findings very consistently. Investors who check their portfolio less frequently will outperform ones that check their portfolio more frequently. The primary enemy of investment returns is not the market itself, it is the investor's behavior and how they respond and how they adjust to the market. I bought the SPMO when almost nobody else on YouTube was talking about it. I have never sold a single share. I have actually increased my holding in that ETF. That holding decision is not passive. It is one of the hardest active decisions I've made in investing for me, and really made it again and again and again. Every time the market drops, there's an instinct to go ahead and sell, to cash out. It's overvalued, but I have held it through everything that we've seen, even the big downfall and the drawback that I've seen in 2022 when I just continued to buying, and it has paid off. Now, habit number 7, own boring, unglamorous positions that no one really talks about. When we look at the millionaire next door, the research in the most common business owned by Americans were really not discussed at parties. It was commercial cleaning companies, it was pest control, it was waste management, agricultural management, and equipment. These businesses are in consistent demand, and they always have been. They have very little competition. And when you start looking at entrepreneurs, it is really something that people want to build, something that's flashy. You want to see the cash flow. But of course, these companies and these markets are stable through all of the ups and downs. When you look at the SPMO, it is an ETF equivalent of this principle. It holds the 100 highest momentum stocks in the S&P 500. Nothing exciting to explain with there, not glamorous, not the AI hyper narrative that we're seeing when we're looking at a possible bubble. Don't quote me on that. It has a return of over 20% annualized over 10 years, and it is 30% of my portfolio, and that is the reason why I do videos on it on a regular basis, because it is the biggest and the most powerful holding that I do have. Habit number 8, and probably the most important one, teach through ownership, not just conversation. Old money does not give children financial advice, it gives them financial experience. If I tell a child about compounding interest and its power, they will understand it intellectually, but not emotionally. A child who owns shares of the VOO, watches the dividends arrive, and then decides what they want to do with that investment, understands compounding interest and the actual way you can change behavior at a much younger age through direct experience of the mechanism of compounding interest. The custodial investment account you can open at 12 years old. The decision to give the child about whether to reinvest the money that they made or take it out is all up to them, but that is the curriculum. It costs almost nothing, and the value across an entire generation is incalculable when you allow them to do it themselves. Habit number 9, keeping your fixed costs permanently low regardless of the income. Now, this is a habit that Buffett's house made extremely well in every way. Every fixed cost you carry is a decision you can't make. It is a business opportunity that you can't pursue. It is a risk you cannot take. It is in a year that you cannot absorb. When you look at an individual making $80,000 a year that keeps their fixed costs at $40,000, that gives them $40,000 of annual opportunities that they can do with what they want. A person earning that same $80,000 that has $75,000 in those fixed costs only has $5,000 every single year that you have the option to do something with. Now, those 10 years between two different people, they are going to be in entirely different financial universes, not because of what they earned, but because of what they got to keep, giving them the flexibility to do with what they wanted. The capital didn't go into a larger house. It didn't go into a more expensive car. It didn't, and it wasn't subject to lifestyle creep. It could go into an SPMO, a QQQM, or a VOO to build that generational wealth. Now, habit number 10, measuring net worth, not income. When it comes to income, it is a flow. Net worth is the stock. A flow tells you how much is coming in. A stock tells you how much you've accumulated. Many people manage their entire financial lives referring to the flow or the money they're earning. It is the salary, it is the budget, it is the annual bonus, and they pay no attention to the stock at all. Old money is only managed by stocks. If I have a $500,000 portfolio and I'm on track for what I'm looking at, not looking at my monthly contributions, not looking at the annual return because it is very isolated, the accumulation of stock is now working harder than my savings rate. That's exactly what we did with our crossover point that I showed you on this channel. The person with a $40,000 income and a $400,000 net worth is structurally better in a position than a person that earns $120,000 a year that is at a negative $50,000 net worth. Most people's intuitions would say the exact opposite. Money knows the actual difference. Habit number 11, insure against catastrophe, not against inconvenience. Old money carries insurance to protect against an event that would be life-altering. We are talking about disability, death, catastrophic liability. Old money does not buy those extended warranties. It does not pay premiums to protect against something that you could just absorb with your own resources. The rule is very precise. If you can afford to replace it or repair it without the financial distress, do not buy the warranty, self-insure it in the entirety. If the event would materially alter your financial projection or trajectory, buy the insurance and carry the insurance. Everything else is just the insurance industry selling you peace of mind at an extraordinarily high premium to people who have not made this calculation. The money saved on convenience and the insurance compounds along that side that money that you're investing in a regular basis. Habit number 12, compounding relationships, not just capital. Old money understands the most valuable assets that most people own are not in their portfolios at all. It is in the network of genuine relationships, people who you can trust, refer to them, alert them to opportunities, and speak in many of the rooms that you might not be in. Credentials open more doors at once. Relationships open doors continuously. The most successful investor I've studied, and really one common belief beyond those ETF allocation, is maintaining consistent, patient, non-transactional relationships with people in the financial industry and different industries for decades. This channel is really a part of me, building genuine relationships with an audience that cares about the exact same thing that I do, not just a transaction and not just investing in its entirety. Here's the pattern that connects all 12 of these habits. Not one of them require exceptional intelligence. None of them require special access at all. And none of them are very dependent on finding the right opportunity at the right time. None of these 12 would make a compelling story at a dinner party. They are boring, but they are very, very consistent. They are orientated toward long-term investing in every single dimension. The investment horizon, the relationship horizon, the cost structure horizon, and really prioritizing the stock over the flow, the assets over the signal, and the system over a single decision. Buffett did not invent this system. He inherited it from Benjamin Graham, who inherited it from generations before him. This is the oldest wealth building system in existence. It is the least discussed by any means, and it's available for anyone willing to trade the excitement of looking wealthy for the compounding returns of actually becoming wealthy. When I look at my $500,000 portfolio, it is running this system for the last 5 years of application. It is not done. It is compounding for the next 20 years. Now, of course, drop a comment down below, guys. Which of these 12 habits is the hardest for you to follow right now? I know what we're working on, and I know what I'm working on myself. I read every single comment. I will respond to them. Subscribe if it gave you some framework to think about. We have a good week ahead of us, and of course, building wealth a little bit differently than you did 10 minutes ago. So I'll catch you in the next video.